The NFL Combine has not started, and it already appears that CJ Stroud has the upper hand over Alabama quarterback Bryce Young.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, February 28th in the year 2023, and I'd like to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During this episode, we will discuss a few things CJ Stroud will go through during the NFL Combine and a possible way to reduce injuries in college football. But before we get to any of that, the Underwear Olympics are almost here. Now, maybe you're new to the show or you're new to college football, new to the NFL, and you don't know what the Underwear Olympics are. It's the NFL Combine, where guys go out there, athletes, college football players that are trying to play in the NFL, get drafted and make the most money they can make, go out there, compression shorts, workout shirts, and they go out there and run their 40, run their 20-yard shuttle, 60-yard shuttle, broad jump, high jump, vertical, all of these things. They're doing all of these different feats, these different exercises to show their skills. Now, the Underwear Olympics is what I call it. I've called it that since I was a kid because it's kind of a fun way to talk about what's going on the field. What's going to happen on the field is CJ Stroud is going to show NFL executives, NFL coaches, NFL scouts what he's made of. We're going to go through a series of different events and reps and different drills to showcase his arm and showcase what he brings to the table as a quarterback. And just a day ago, I was on the Twitter looking to see some different things, trying to find something or if there was anything pertinent to this show so we could talk about it today. And in comes a tweet from Ian Rappaport. In this tweet, it discusses something that Stroud will do at the Combine that Alabama quarterback Bryce Young is not doing. I'll read the top of the tweet for you, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Quote, Ohio State QB CJ Stroud will throw at this week's NFL Scouting Combine, while Alabama quarterback Bryce Young will wait to do so for his pro day, sources tell me and Tom Pelissero, end quote. Now, this is something that I think it gives an advantage to CJ Stroud as far as who is going to have the best week or who can have the best week at the Combine. Bryce Young is still going to go through interviews at the Combine. That's great. But I do believe if you have the top two quarterbacks in this draft in the same building who can go through the same drills that are not scripted by their coaches and by their people with their own receivers, you want to see what they're all about. And I think CJ Stroud is doing something I think he needs to do. But ultimately, I think Bryce Young needs to do it as well. I understand it was an AC joint injury, that he's healthy. He can still play football, and he's healthy right now. He can go out there and play the football. But ultimately, that's not happening. The drills at the NFL Combine, they do not erase the tape. But as a quarterback, if you can throw the football, go out there and sling the rock. If you can throw the football and move around on the field, go out there and show off in front of the people or somebody who might be a future coach or even future boss. Stroud throwing at the Combine, I love it. Bryce Young not throwing at the Combine, okay. It's what your people have told you might be wise for you to do. But this gives the advantage to CJ Stroud. I love this, man. I love this. I mean, you're battling it. I think that Stroud and Young are close. I think Young is the better quarterback. But if CJ Stroud wants to make more money, I mean, he already made some money at the with the Georgia game, even though the Buckeyes did not lose that game, I believe CJ Stroud made himself some money that day. If it's not from money in a draft pick, may it be from endorsement deals, as all the corporate sponsors were in Atlanta, Georgia for the Peach Bowl to watch that game and see what Georgia and Ohio State would do on the football field. This is very important for CJ Stroud. Seize the opportunity. Take advantage of the opportunity that's right in front of you. Not every quarterback that's trying to get drafted gets an invite to the NFL scouting combine. There are 319 players that will be at the scouting combine in the upcoming season. This week in Indianapolis, Indiana. I do not believe there will be over 300 guys drafted in this year's draft. So these players, these athletes, you need to take advantage of this moment. This happens every year. There's somebody, maybe for injury or for whatever reason, they decide to not participate in the drills at the combine. Maybe somebody who says, I'm not going to bench. Maybe somebody who says, I'm not going to run the 40. Maybe somebody that says, I'll do some of the drills, but I'm not going to do the position-specific drills. Whatever it may be, there are guys every year that do this. This ain't nothing new, but it is new for Stroud. He may have been looking to compete with Mr. Bryce Young. He may have been looking to see what both of those guys do. And things go, and the quarterbacks go in these drills, all the drills, go in alphabetical order. So I know Stroud would go before Young in the drills, and ultimately, if they're in the same group, now they may split them up in two separate groups, but if they're in the same group and all quarterbacks, maybe they have them all in one cluster. If they have them all out there at one time, Stroud would go before Young. And I think I know the kind of competitor that Stroud is, not the greatest of the greatest, but he is a good competitor. And I think he knows, not only is it about him, he's trying to impress people in Chicago, people in Houston, that he is the best option for them at quarterback out of all the options at quarterback in this year's NFL draft. Advantage Stroud going at the NFL Combine gives you the advantage over Bryce Young, at least in this event, because Bryce Young will not be participating in any on-field drills. Will not be throwing the football. He's only going through interviews. You can still impress people via the interviews. You can still impress people doing that way, because that does not erase the game tape. With this event specifically, advantage CJ Stroud, as he'll be throwing the football during the combine. And Bryce Young, he won't be. CJ Stroud in the combine, this is a great opportunity for him. And I know the coaches, executive scouts, they'll be trying to dig through different things on the field and off the field. What kind of things will Stroud be able to experience? What will he experience during the upcoming scouting combine in Indianapolis? We'll discuss all that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all of the fat and calories? Then you gotta try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got just the thing for you. You gotta try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they are all covered in 100% real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Thanks again for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked on College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball can be found in one place. Plus, hear from big name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked on College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your fine podcast. Oh, the Underwear Olympics. I love the event. I love watching it. I love seeing the players run the 40. I will say something about this later in the week as far as what means something in the combine and what does not. I love watching the combine. Honestly, my favorite part is not guys running the 40 or doing the broad jump or a vertical jump or 225 on the bench. No, I'm a football guy. Get me on the field and watch them bad boys work. From the O linemen to the D linemen to the DBs, the quarterbacks, the receivers, the running backs. Watch them guys work. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. This does not erase game tape. Honestly, this is a great way to see how you have been, how you have kept up with your physique, how you have kept up with your health, how in shape you are. A lot of guys, some of these guys haven't played football since the end of November. End of November, Thanksgiving weekend, all the way through this part of the season, of the year, the first few days in the month of March. That's a lot of time. December, that's 3 months. That's literally 3 months since some of these guys have done things in front of this amount of coaches, this many players. Now, Stroud's last game was on New Year's Eve, ultimately ended on New Year's Day. So we got to see Stroud a little bit later, but he still has had time off. And so for CJ Stroud, when he is going to be a guy, and we're going to get a lot more in depth with Stroud when it comes to what he brings to the table, his scouting report. When you get my guy Ryan Roberts back on the show, he's been a staple on the show leading into the NFL draft every year. I've been hosting this podcast just to see what Stroud is as a future NFL player. Great in college. Will he be great in the NFL? Our guy Ryan will give us his scouting report on CJ Stroud in a later show here on the podcast. But Stroud's going to be one person that I do believe all the teams he talks to, they're going to want to look at his mentals, man. They're going to look and see what is he made of. They reviewed, I guarantee you these guys have reviewed the press conferences and they reviewed the things that Stroud has said during said press conferences and what Stroud has said during interviews, maybe one that he did in 2021 on the Big Ten Network, or maybe things that he has said on podcasts. I believe he was on, I want to say the Pivot podcast. Is either the Pivot or I Am Athlete, probably the Pivot. I haven't listened to I Am Athlete consistently in a long time. Once they lost Channing Crowder and Fred Taylor, I said, deuces, Brandon Marshall, I'm going to the Pivot because that is a better podcast than what I Am Athlete is right now. But they're going to try and check his mentals. Also, Stroud was recently on the Jim Rome show. Like, hello, big time. Jim Rome, that's an amazing thing. So people are going to try to look at Stroud and his mentals, and that's going to be huge. Now, a lot of these people he's talking to, there's a good chance he's talked to them previously, or he's maybe a head coach he talked to previously in a hot minute, or maybe a scout that was at a game that Stroud talked to. Whatever it is, Stroud's going to be Stroud will be talking to a lot of these guys for a second time. So some of them already know a little bit about Stroud, know what he brings to the table, but in this type of setting, you already have some questions planned. Now, maybe a team, maybe the Indianapolis Colts or the Houston Texans or the Las Vegas Raiders or the Carolina Panthers, whoever it might be, it might be a team that's going to come out and ask every athlete they talk to the same exact question. It may be something that you're going to ask about a player's mom or a player's upbringing or a player's dad or different things like that. Sometimes people ask questions to get a response. Now, also, some people ask questions that they should not ask. How do you respond to that in those moments? Because they're going to try and poke at you and prod at you and get you off your game. See how mentally strong and mentally tough you are. I think that's something that people are going to be watching and listening to closely. That stuff won't get on the NFL Network. That's behind closed doors. And Stroud better be prepared for the mental darts that'll be thrown at him this week. On-field stuff, do I really care about Stroud's 40? Absolutely not. Do I care about Stroud and his vertical jump? Absolutely not. Do I care about him and how many times he can bench press 225? Not really. Now, I don't want you to be a weak link, but I don't care how many times. I don't care. I don't care. Do I care about how many times CJ Stroud can do the shuttle drills and the 3-cone? Buddy, I mean, I might be watching to see how he does. How do you move on the field? Now, the 3-cone drill it's not a snapshot of something that actually happens on the field. But if you ain't moving well there, I mean, people could say, oh, well, maybe Georgia was a fluke. Maybe him moving in the pocket and looking more fluid in the pocket, maybe that was a one-time thing, a one-hit wonder. I mean, he literally has to answer these questions about why in the world did you play that way against Georgia with your feet, your legs, moving the ball, running, looking like you do this all the time. But the previous games you started, buddy, you ain't do that. I mean, he is going to have to, and Stroud started. Let me get my numbers correct. Missed a game in 2021. There were 13 games in both seasons. That's 26 games minus 1 is 25. Stroud started 25 games in the past 2 seasons. In only one of those games, we saw Stroud use his legs and look like a fluid runner behind the line of scrimmage. They're going to ask those questions. And they're going to be very, very specific. Try to pinpoint certain areas with Stroud on there. But also, the on-field stuff, when it comes to throwing the football, I mean, his accuracy will be on full display. And let me tell y'all, if Stroud come out here and just start diming these cats up, no matter if it's a post, if it's a curl, if it's an in route, if it's a slant, whatever the route is, anything on that route tree, if Stroud is out there, he's going to knock you right where you want the ball to be. You turn up field, skedaddle. You turn up field, skedaddle. Stroud will hit you. He'll hit you clean. He'll hit you good. And I cannot wait to see CJ Stroud in this event. But ultimately, this is about CJ. I have said for a long time, I'm going to say it forever, as long as I'm on this podcast and other shows that I might host in the future. The interview process to be an NFL player and to be in the NFL Combine, to be an NFL player to get drafted. It's one of the most extensive interview processes anybody will ever go through. Think about this. Stroud was not at the Senior Bowl, but there are players that play in multiple All-Star games, one being prior to the East-West Shrine game or the Senior Bowl. One feeds into the East-West Shrine game, so you can play in a couple All-Star games. You then go to the NFL Combine. You have the Pro Day, which is another way for you to showcase your skills. You're going to be flying around to different cities and different organizations, facilities to get interviewed. But all of that does not erase the game tape. And let's just say you're a 3-year starter, or you're Paris Johnson Jr., not a 3-year starter, but you consistently started the past 2 years. But then during your freshman year, you started a little bit and you played a little bit of football. They got 3 years of game tape on you. That does not erase what's going on between the end of your final season playing college football at Ohio State and you getting drafted. That doesn't erase anything. So as much as I love what's going on right now at the Combine, it's just a part. It's a small part. Well, it's a big part, honestly, of a long interview process to potentially be a professional football player. And there will be guys at the Combine during these interviews that dig up stuff from your childhood. CJ Stroud, I hope you're ready. One thing I am ready for is to find a way to reduce injuries in college football. And I have an idea. About how we can make this happen. We'll discuss what that is next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. Billiards Plus also can set you up with a brand new top-of-the-line grill that will last for generations. We all know how hard it is with the supply chain issues this year and getting certain things shipped on time. So when it comes to ordering that one big gift for someone you love, check out Billiards Plus and get there early this year. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Olahausen, Canada, Billiards, and more. Plus, top-of-the-line grills from PK, Napoleon, Memphis, and Le Griddle. That will be the last grill you own. Seriously, these grills stand the test of time. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Check them out at Billiards, Plus.com. Billiards Plus, family owned and operated for generations. Sports betting is now legal in Ohio, and Locked On has the perfect show to help new and seasoned gamblers. Download and subscribe to Locked On Bets for daily picks and analysis wherever you get your fine podcasts. So if you're a person like me, and over the past 5, 6, 7 years, you have noticed an uptick in the number of injuries across the board in college football, you might be a little concerned. And this is not an Ohio State-specific football team conversation. Over the entire sport, you have seen an uptick in injuries. That's just college football. If you go to the NFL level, it's the same way. If you go to the high school level, it's the same way. I don't watch, and I've not even thought about watching middle school football or even Little League football, but I wouldn't be shocked if some of them that play on certain fields have more injuries on their teams than others. But specifically at Ohio State, the Buckeyes football team this past year, and it hasn't just been this past year. This has actually been an issue since I've been covering Ohio State here on Locked On Buckeyes. There have been more injuries and an uptick in injuries over just the past few years at Ohio State. But if we just look at one position specifically and look at what happened, I can look at corner as well. You can see some stuff going on there. But let's just look at the running back position. Yes, this is something that you can't expect to happen a lot. But you saw an injury from T.C. Coffey, a walk-on running back. You saw an injury from Evan Pryor, I think it was a freshman, sophomore running back at Ohio State at the time. You saw Travion Henderson. You saw Mayan Williams. You saw running backs going down with lower leg injuries. Think about what's been going on at other places around the sport. You have different players that are starters, some that are just rotational pieces. Some of them have been dealing with more injuries. And this has been something that I have been trying to figure out. What in the world is causing the injuries? How do we fix it? Now, for a while, I thought, and I still think this is part of the issue with college football implementing rules that require or call for less hitting and less physical contact during practice. I do believe there are players that are less conditioned for the sport, for the college football game than they used to be. However, that's not the end-all be-all. I still think some players' bodies are not as conditioned as they need to be to play football, which is why you do see some injuries. However, I think you could go a little bit further. The playing surface itself. A lot of teams in college football play on turf. Not the old school artificial turf that you saw the Detroit Lions play on and the Indianapolis Colts play on, the St. Louis Rams play on, that hard carpet that guys had to wear tape on their elbows and forearms and upper arms and triceps to just kind of alleviate some of the pain that you had when you got there. And no, when you hit the ground. No, not that old carpet type stuff. The artificial turf now that looks like real grass, but it ain't real grass. The stuff that has the rubber pellets on the ground, and that stuff does help your traction. The stuff that when you see a player hit the ground, you see black stuff come up off the ground, that are those black rubber pellets that I speak of. That surface itself, and I do believe there are studies that have been done that show artificial turf is not safer to play on than grass. It is not. Now, granted, it may look better, upkeep, better, easier, whatever you want to say. I am a person that still believes players should play on the safest surface. And with it being college football, a lot of the schools that play on artificial turf, they have the funds, and they used to do it. It can't be done. It's never been done. They used to do it. They have the funds to play on grass. And they have the funds to upkeep the field in a great way all year long and to keep that grass done. Now, with college football not having a commissioner, it'd be very, very hard to implement and say everybody needs to play on grass. Everybody. It would be very, very hard. But conferences could do it. The Big Ten Conference, Midwest, cold, I get it. I understand all of the bad things that may happen. play on grass, man. Like, it's a safer surface. Yeah, when it rains, it's going to get muddy. Yeah, when it snows, it's going to be a little bit different. Maybe slick. Okay, maybe really, really hard. Okay, this is football. Think about what guys played football on in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. Grass. It's what they did, and they were fine. Now, you may say, Jay, it's not going to alleviate injuries. You're correct. You're very smart. It will not alleviate all injuries, but I think we will see a downward slope. We will see less injuries if everybody plays on grass. This final thought here about this very topic. In the NFL, I have seen and I noticed, this is a couple years ago when it first came into my mind, more players tearing their ACL. A lot of players tearing their ACL. I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, what is it? And that's where my thought about the conditioning, less contact in practice, not being as conditioned to play the game. I thought that's when that came into play. No, man. I still think that is a factor, but I'm leaning more towards the surface teams are playing on is causing it. Also, a little side note, I said the last thing, but things always pop through my mind. The NFLPA is trying to push a notion and trying to push for everybody in the NFL to play on grass and to move away from all artificial turf. Just saying. The NFLPA, the Players Association, they understand. They think, hey, move away from turf, play on grass. You figure it out. If you got a dome, figure it out. If you're outside, you got turf, change it. The money is there to upkeep the grass. And I think it's a wise thing to make players play on a surface that allows them to be as safe as they can be. We're out of here on a Tuesday. Fun to be back. 3 more days left. Tomorrow is the first day of the month of March. Man, it is crazy. We are already to the 3rd month in 2023. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Plus, hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your fine podcast.